Praised be Jesus and Mary. St. Pius X, whom we celebrate today, was born Joseph Sarto in 1836 into a poor family by earthly standards, but very rich in virtue. From his youth, he announced his desire to become a priest, and with his widowed mother's approval, their parish priest found financial aid for him, and he became an assistant priest in 1858, and in 1867 was named pastor of a large parish in Salzano, and his three unmarried sisters followed him to every assignment, as they would even do to the Vatican. He was immediately loved wherever he went, and edified all who he came in contact with. In 1891, he became the Patriarch of Venice, and then in 1903 he received his final promotion as the Vicar of Christ on earth. He saw with perfect clarity that members of the Church were falling ever more deeply into the disastrous errors of Modernism, which has been called a synthesis of every heresy. The teachings of his predecessors had fallen on deaf ears, and everywhere defenders of the Catholic faith were becoming sparse. Nevertheless, there remained groups who supported their pontiff and strove to halt the rising tide of dissent and rebellion. He did bring about the resignation of a considerable number who resisted the authority of his predecessors and whose ambiguous language continued to spread the false doctrines of a modern world separated from Christ. He'll always be known as the Pope of the Eucharist, for he was determined that the faithful should imitate the example of the earliest Christians. He lowered the age for the reception of Holy Communion by declaring that children were bound to fulfill the precept of the Easter Communion as soon as they reached the age of reason. He also urged the reception of frequent and even daily communion for all those in a state of sanctifying grace and of right intention. On the 11th anniversary of his election as Pope, Europe was plunged into World War I. He had foreseen this war, which broke his heart, and he said, "This is the last affliction the Lord will visit on me. I would gladly give my life to save my poor children from this ghastly scourge." He died a few weeks after the war began. And his last will and testament contained the words, "I was born poor, I have lived poor, and I wish to die poor." He died in 1914 at the age of 78, and he was canonized by Pope Pius XII just 40 years later on May 29th. In the words of Father Newman, let us remember that it is our duty to follow the vicar of Christ wherever he goes and never desert him, whatever the cost, but to defend him from all hazards and against all comers, as a son would a father, knowing that his cause is always the cause of God.